Stopped right there.
Yeah, there's an X in there. A little X. There you go. I'm going to shut it off. Mine put the X didn't do anything. Yours doing alright? Okay.
I got about an hour and a half.
And then I usually just put a corner piece.
Another thing, silicone won't hurt anything. It'll make it slippery. When it sets up, it'll hold that seal in place. It beats taking a hammer to them and ruining the seal. So if you can do them by hand, it's a lot better. The rear seal will also do. Will do by hand. It'll go in the same way. Just put a little silicone sealer on the backs on both sides and slip it in.
What is that part called again? Sorry.
This is this is basically the rear main seal. There's probably a better term for it. Centric shaft seal.
Stationary gear.
Stationary gear seal. Yeah.
That's usually what they call it.
The front and rear seals are really cheap. They're under $10 a pair.
Yeah,
they're like $4 or $5 each. So I'd suggest putting new ones in. Usually the back ones don't leak. You ever take apart one that's leak? I don't think I've ever seen hardly any of them that leak problems on the back.
Somebody puts the wrong flywheel on it, starts to leak.
Flywheels are all made the same.
It's rubber.
As you can see, you can set them in there by hand that way. Otherwise, you don't put any sealer on them, they'll just stick. And then you'll end up having to hammer them in, and then you'll damage the sealer. So, just put them in with your thumbs and make sure they're flush across. I do have a real motor stand, but I didn't bring it. I'm figuring a lot of you guys don't have one, so we're going to use a coffee can. I've used one for years. It works good. It's not as nice as a motor stand. Motor stand's the way to go. It's easier.
They look great.
Yeah, but I know a lot of you guys don't have one at home, so we'll bypass that. We'll show you how to do it.
Steel
I have
very
one
gold.
sitting in the back of my car.
You brought one with you? You're prepared.
I almost brought mine.
So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I know the milk crate feel like a little more stable in the bucket.
I don't know. I usually seal these with some sealer around the outside too when I put these in. It's a good idea to get your stationary gears in before you do your motor assembly. Once we start on the assembly of the motor, it'll go pretty fast, unless I try to put a rotor in backwards, or if we get a corner seal that comes out of place and we have to fix it. We're going to have a little discussion on glue too for the water seal. I happen to use this
Aviation Vertex.
well, Super 300 form a gasket stuff. Had real good luck with it over the years. When they first came out and I started doing them, read about something fantastic called Hylamar.
Yeah.
I tried it. I couldn't get it to work. The stuff I got was old. And then they came out with a Hylamar spray, and I thought that'd be great. I'll just stick the seals in there and spray across them and be done with it. The spray was all gummed up in the thing, and it didn't work either. Some of my earlier motors, I experimented with putting silicone on them, silicone sealer, and a silicone setup before I got the motor torqued, and then it leaked. Didn't work. So I've tried quite a few things. What do you use, Ray?
It varies. You can use a high tack. I've actually even used in real small quantities that Right Stuff gasket maker with your finger down the groove.
Yeah, the thing is, you got to get it torqued down before that stuff seals up and makes a problem for you. You can't like start an assembly on Tuesday and finish it the next weekend.
No.
When you get to this point, you're committed and you're going to do it. So.
Like neoprene.
Hmm. What's that?
I know, like a silicone gasket.
Yeah, like neoprene silicone.
Yeah.
No, I never heard it called neoprene before. So,
That's what we always used to call it back then.
uh-huh. It's probably the same stuff.
Water and cooling.
It's probably the same thing.
Real soft, kind of spongy.
Yeah, I've got some here. This is Mopar RTV, but
No, this stuff's fairly clear. Kind of a
mhm,
kind of a cloudy looking clear color.
mhm. Probably should have put this in ahead of time to save a little time, but I wanted you guys to see how to put in those seals first. There's an alignment pin that I'm fighting right now.
So that does have to go in a certain way.
Yeah, there's a little pin that keeps it in right. Sometimes these things will just drop right in and not any problem. But they're pretty tight fit. That's pretty good. I'm drawing that. Is he out here? Okay. I'd like you up front in case you see me doing something wrong, you point it out.
One thing though that I do use
Mhm.
is I've got an abundance of tension bolts, and I weld up a nut on different ones, so I use like 4 per section. So as I'm assembling the engine, like when I put the first rotor housing on the front plate,
Mhm.
I bolt it down with 4 bolts to hold it in place while I assemble it.
Mhm.
And
Just to
then
kind
the reason why
of
I
push
came
it
up with
down.
all this was because I'd always be on the phone doing tech support. So then I have angle iron that I bolt the 2 pieces together, remove those tension bolts. Then as I put on the center housing, then I re-bolt it again. Because I could leave it for a week and come back to it, and it would be just fine.
How tight do you put those? Just snug tight, or?
And you'd be like at 12 pounds.
Yeah. I usually just get them
Which is pretty
pretty
snug.
snug with that wrench.
Yeah.
Just by hand. I usually don't impact or anything on those. You want to compress that lock washer so it digs into the metal a little bit, but you don't want to overdo it. They're not going to go anywhere. So.
That's why it's called a stationary gear.
I don't know anything about that.
Now, front stationary gear, we're just going to put in with 1 bolt. It has 6 in there, but we're not going to use them yet. We just want to set it in there as a holding place for the rotor. And usually these things just fall in. They're pretty good. But you need to get 1 bolt in there to hold it, keep it from backing out when you're putting it together. So I'm going to set some of this stuff off the side a little bit. some room. See how nice that fits? The reason you have to have something like this is because the eccentric shaft knows it's going to go through there and sit on there.
Works pretty good.
Drawbacks are engine stand, you can tilt it a little bit like this. Makes it a lot easier to go in because things don't just snap and fall in place like they do when you do it this way.
The other drawback is putting on the center housing without being able to lift
In the center.
the eccentric shaft.
I think we